Hello, Uncle Skrilla. Hello, hello. Welcome, TikTok family. Welcome, YouTube family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to have a very interesting topic today, as usual. You know me with my nerdy self. I thought I would come here and share this information. The ancestors just like, why don't you share this information um, on your social media? Somebody probably wants to know this. Okay, so I am sharing this knowledge today. We're going to talk about Kachinas and Obeah. I had somebody drop some more stuff um, on me about Obeah. It's every time I talk about this subject, people come out the woodwork. Um, they want to listen and they gain insight when I talk about it, and that's just only from what the ancestors told me. Again, we're going to talk about the Kachinas and Obeah. And I know some of you saying, what the heck is a Kachinas? But what the heck is this? I remember when the ancestors showed me this information a long time ago. And that's when I was doing a lot of connecting with the land and trying to communicate with a lot of the land ancestors there in the Americas. This is what comes up when you go out in nature and you start connecting again with the most elevated ancestors. Okay, this is very interesting information, and I don't think a lot of people talk about, but these are the ancestors that get lost. Their names get lost in time. We don't know who they are. They're given these obscure source of history, and they tell you, oh, we don't know where they are. The pre-Columbian civilization is one of those civilizations where they tell you that. The Olmecs and all that, they tell you, oh, they vanished, they're not there anymore. But we know better. We know better, we know better, we know better. But this is what they tell us. They tell us that these people gone, but yet we seeing their history and standing on the civilization that they started. But these people ain't nowhere in sight, and don't nobody know where they went. People just don't vanish like that. Okay, so we all know that when they do that, we already know what's going on. We know they hiding some stuff about who we truly are. Okay, so when they tell you, especially about the pre-Columbian civilizations, and they get to telling you who built those mounds and who built these artifacts, but oh, we don't know where they at no more. Now you know you these folks what they be doing. Hello, TikTok family. Hello, YouTube family. Thank you for coming in live stream. I'm just sharing my thoughts here. We're having a discussion, and probably these are our ancestors. I'm just going out and say it like this. These are the people that they say they can't find no more. We are those people. Okay? And they get to talk about the mound builders and all them people. Them people just don't vanish. Okay? The Native American, we're not talking about Native Americans. We're talking about the indigenous people to the Americas. That's what we're talking about here. Okay, these are two different people. Matter of fact, what really brought it to my attention too, I remember living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I lived there for about a year. I couldn't believe it. And I was looking at the so-called Native Americans there, the Indians there in Oklahoma. It was tripping me out because I know what I saw on TV. I know how they show the people on TV, but when I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, a lot of these folks looking just like me and you. It tripped me out. I said, ancestors, what the heck? What am I seeing here? What is this? What is this? Every time I came in contact with one, they looked like me. I don't know nobody about nobody else, but when I came in contact, I didn't know what was going on there. So I'm letting you know right off the bat. You know these people just don't vanish. You know that. They only say that because they don't want to admit who the folks is. They don't even want to admit who you are. Okay? So when I start going down this road again, trying to find out who these people was connected with the mounds, and then the Pueblo Indians. The Pueblo, do you guys remember that when we talked about this at school? Who remembers them talking about the Pueblo Indians? I remember that. And we're so young. I said they talked about this in school, but I was just so unaware. I was just so unaware that they were talking about what they were talking about and what that meant. But when it came down my path again when I was connecting to the lands, finding out more about the land there in the Americas. Cause see, when you follow the land and the people on the land, them the ancestors. That's the key right there. When you start connecting with the land, go outside. Because remember, they spend a majority of their time outside. Okay. So when I start connecting with that, the Pueblo Indians came up in my research and I dived in deeper to this. It's just going to be interesting as we have this discussion and you see all the similarities uh, among the indigenous cultures there. It's just a discussion that needs to be had. Hello, MF. Hello, Ezekiel. Hello, user 402178. Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, everyone. This is a very interesting discussion, and you know me, I'm kind of nerdy. Hi, Internet Williams. I'm kind of nerdy, so yeah, we're gonna dive into this. Now, what's so interesting about the Pueblo Indians, and this is my research. This is what it tell you. You can go out there and look at it for yourself. But I'm gonna tell you what I see. They're telling you their NASA Anasazi, that's the name, Anasazi. They're calling them Anasazi, also known as the ancestral Pluboians, were an ancestors appear to have been related to the Aztecs of Mexico, known for their impressive architecture and complex society, who inhabit a region east of the Grand Canyon. Now, why are you if they are related to the Aztecs, the Mayans, and all that? Why are you calling them Pluto Indians? Why are you calling them by different names? See how they try to separate things and make it look like they ain't your folks, but they be your folks. See, this is what they did to the indigenous culture, try to make it seem like you was different people. No, it's the same people, just in different locations. Some of us was the same people in different locations. Okay. Pueblo, which means village, and people in Spanish. So you have the Spaniards coming in there. This is what they're calling us when they come in. You remember I told you they colonized Mexico. They colonized that down there. Okay. So you have them telling you who these folks is. You don't know who these people is. They just telling you with their words who these people is. Just like the ancestors told me. Okay. They telling you what it say. You read this stuff because it is directly connected to you. But they calling you got some outside colonizers calling your folks by different names. So you will miss it. I said the same thing. When you go into this stuff with your ancestors, they'll let you know who you are. You just don't know what you're looking at and where to look. I'm telling you where to look at, where to look at. Okay. And to know it when you see it, when they go to telling you they naming these people this there in the Americas and now they disappear. So let me go on with this. It goes on to say here, uh that means village people by the Spanish term originating with the Spanish explorers who used it to refer to as the people particular style of dwelling. So they going by that. They don't know who these people is, but they gonna tell you that they Pueblo Indians and all that. Just like they try to tell you about the pre-Columbian situation, it was the Adean period and then another period. No, it was the same damn people, probably in different generations, but these was the same people. Okay, and as the generation moved forward, so does the technology and the mind. So, I'm going on. I get off my horse so I can go on with this. So it goes on to say the Anasazi civilization flourished for approximately, and then they give you these eras. I don't even trust the dates that you're giving me now because the point is they was already here, and I think you just got giving me these dates for your own, ulterior motives. Okay, the topic is we're talking about Kachinos and Obeahs right there. I put it up there. So we're looking at these Kachinas. Now I'm getting to the Kachinas, but I really want you to understand these indigenous ancestors that were already there on that land. And these people telling you that they Pluborn people. They think they was related to the Aztec. They're the same people. This is what happened when the colonizers get your stuff. Okay. And then try to give you a story, a vague story about you. You think he wants you to know about you? You got to go on and look. I had to follow the ancestors on this, and I missed this at school. But when I start connecting with the land and looking at, because the ancestors kept telling me, "Girl, you been here. What are you talking about? Where you come from? You come from here." So I go to looking down this road. This comes up. Looking at the Mayan civilizations, and the connections are there. Okay, you be right there looking at your ancestors, don't even know it. Okay, I'm sitting in Oklahoma looking at these Indians, and I'm like, why these folks look like me? Cause that's not what I seen on TV. When I lived in Tulsa, I had never seen. I was like, what am I looking at? They had Indian license plates, all that stuff. They own little car when they go shopping and all that stuff. Okay, I said, what the hell? I was at a vending event, and I was talking to this woman. She looked just like me. And I was like, "Yeah, I thought I would come speak to you because since we were the only black people here." She said, "I'm not black." I said, "What do you mean?" She was going by the term, "I'm Native American." That's what she said. I said, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Yes. Every Indian I have saw have looked like me. I don't know what to tell you, but every Indian I have saw, these so-called Native Americans, that you know, I think that term there is such a vague term. I think when I looked at that term, we're Indian, we're not that. That's what the ancestors told me. I'm gonna keep it that simple. We're Indian, we're not Native Americans. We're Indian. We're American Indian. That's what we are. Just like the ancestors told me, you can believe it or not, I don't really don't care. The proof is in the pudding. And these folks I'm sitting up here looking at just like me. I don't know why they was made to take that title, or are they going under indigenous Americans? I don't know. But I know them people in Tulsa, Oklahoma that fall under Indian or Native American. Them people look just like me, the ones I have saw. Not these, Asiatic, and I ain't got nothing against them. The ones I've saw ain't look like that. I'm just gonna tell you right out, especially the ones in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And if anybody live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they know what I'm talking about. They've seen them too. These are dark skinned people, look just like me and you. Now I don't know how they got like that, but they are up in there. Okay, them the only Indians I have saw. I have to tell people that sometime because you think hoodoo is just African, and you forget that the most heaviest thing you need to understand is that you got indigenous ancestors in the Americas, and that's where a lot of power is at. They are all originally Africans. I know you want to believe that. I wanted to believe that too at one point, but when I start following the ancestors, they say that's not so. I'm just telling you. When I start following the ancestors, they said, no, that is not so. Them folks is lying. Now I believe the same thing. I really did. Until the ancestors started telling me a different story when I started listening to the land and not people. I listened to the land. Look at the land. That's what the ancestors kept telling me. Look at the land. Look at the land. I don't we have to lie. Look at the land. Where the pyramids at? How old are they? Okay, look at the land. What they telling you about your land? What can you find out about the land you standing on? I know you want to believe that. I want to believe that too. It's just not so. I know you believe that, ZZ. I believed that too at one time. I was thoroughly convinced, just like you. But no, it's not so. Not when you start looking at the land. You're listening to people and not the land. Look at the land who was standing there. Look at the civilizations who was standing there. Look at the land. They ain't gonna tell you a different story versus what these people is telling you. If you start looking at the land, it'll start telling you who was who, not people. Nope. That's actually in reverse. That's actually in reverse. ZZ, that happened in reverse. That happened totally in reverse. I know you think the Africans crossed over here. No, we went over there. We're always going over there. You're always going over there. It's in reverse. I know it's unbelievable because what they telling you, but it's the truth. I couldn't believe it either. So after you do a little more study and you look in and see how much information they're hiding about ancient America, it's really going to open your eyes. And so these people, the ancient Pluboans, or what they call the Anasazi, were known for their advanced agricultural practices, which included cultivation of corn, beans, and squash. They call those the three sisters. Again, we go back to these, and then you see corn. Do your little research in the corn. But from what I found out, corn is native to the Americas, but yet you see corn all over the world. And you'll see it in architecture too. So that was a very big deal watching this corn. And then in the Americas, they even have the a corn queen. I think it's called blue corn queen. That's connected to the indigenous ancestors there. So corn, again, just look into some of these things. Even when you trace agriculture, you start seeing a lot of these uh, vegetables or fruits and things are native to the Americas. I know that's hard for you to believe. Okay, but and the name of them them planting corns, beans, and squash was called the Three Sisters. That's what they called it. And this again, these were divine feminine matriarch cultures. Most of them would have been matrilineal. I think that's the most important thing to understand about that gets lost in history. Okay, because these are again hunter gatherer. They made pottery and all the excellent basket makers. In fact, they call them the basket makers. That's what they call those American Indians. Okay, they developed sophisticated irrigation systems to support farming in arid climate in the region. These are the same people. Remember when they came to the Americas and they saw all these cities floating on water and things like that? Our ancestors had already mapped that out. I was even talking about that. You can see too a lot of that. Some of our ancestors, and I'm not going. I get on another subject when I get in that. You can see a little bit that kind of over there in France and what is that? France, Paris, France. You can see a little of those waterway kind of cities, but we had a lot of waterway kind of cities like that. And so they telling you who these people were right there. But then they're gonna tell you they don't know where they went. It's the same people. And you to call them Pueblo people and make us think they not Mayans or Aztecs or Olmecs. These are the same people. See, you don't know what you're looking at when you looking at because they got you thinking these some different kind of people. Now these the same damn people. Stop playing with our mind like that. Stop doing that. Okay. Now you got everybody divided up in Mexican and all this kind of crazy stuff. Try to separate numbers and putting folks in black and white categories and stuff like that. This is what happened. You have to look at what happened because we was all one people at one time. It doesn't change. You still got the same ancestors. It doesn't change. Okay, especially when you start connecting with the land. That's so important, and that's where the power is coming from. It says Anasazi were known for their. I just read about that. Now, when you go into that, and where did these people at? Where was these Pueblo people? Are where were they at? In the Grand Canyon, over in the areas of the Grand Canyon where they said they found these Egyptian artifacts and stuff at. Don't you find that suspicious? And even when they present that, look, what do you think? Okay, you're gonna try to hide that. You're gonna say no, this is not what's up in there, and then you're gonna try to say you don't know where these people went, but yet you have all these artifacts around the Grand Canyon, Arizona, and all these places that's telling you that there was some sort of matrilineal Kemetic people that were already here. We've been mistaken, that people have called us Hebrew, but the thing is, I think they're one and the same people. It's what they're not telling you. Okay, who was over there? They again, they let you know that they're calling these people that. These people are not, and I'm sure they know who these people is. You know who they is, because if you went in there and start touching their stuff, I'm sure at some point you know who these people is, but you're gonna give us your generic name of them, just like they do with the mound builders. It's a generic name to hide who you truly are. Okay, so they know who these people are, but they're calling them the plebeian people, the Anasazi people, the village people. This is what they're calling them. Another interesting thing about these individuals, and I don't know if they still do this, and this is going to really tie in to what I heard Chief Warhorse said. But their religion, they will build these kivas, and it would be like underground. It would be like sort of underground dwelling, and they would create these fires, sort of like a hearth, and connect with their ancestral spirits. Hi, Gerald. And I don't know if they still do the, do still have the keys like the kivas like this. Okay. But you do your research and you go look at how they made these kivas. It was very interesting because it was like those walk down, like a storm shelter. That's what it kind of reminds you of. But then it had an opening there where they would light this fire, and under there they would have rituals and things and dances they would do under there, and they were called kivas. That was their name of their temples, and it was kind of underground. Okay, so they were used to these sort of dwellings. It's just very interesting when you think about it. Okay, just very interesting. Um, what was that for? But so many things come to my mind when they tell me that it's underground, and when you see it, it's very intriguing too. So you take your time and you go look that up, and they are called kivas, Kivas. The other common trait used in kivas were deflectors, fire pits, benches, ventilators, floor vaults, wall niches, and sepulchres. So they got a whole temple like that was underground. But again, now I heard Chief Warhouse talked about, now some of the customs are still there in that area, because Chief Warhouse talked about around Halloween's Day and All Souls Day and the Day of the Dead, that day of the ancestors, that they have these fires going for like 2 or 3 days in honor of the ancestors. They do these fire rituals that were passed down to us that most indigenous cultures do. That came to mind when I was thinking about that, because again, that fire pit is the heart of the temple. Them creating that fire is the heart of the temple. It's just interesting how they do that. Again, they can't. Again, they're subterranean. They're underground. Uh, They said the fact that the kiva is subterranean is not a coincidence. Kivas are associated with origins, myth. The fact that they're built subterranean may have to do with the ancestral memory of of when everyone lived underground. Archaeologists recognize when a pit house functioned as a kiva by the characteristics listed above. But after about 1200, most structures were built above ground, and subterranean structures stopped, including features of the typical kiva. So they don't build them like that anymore. I thought that was very interesting to see that. And then they have all this stuff that's in the Grand Canyon as well. These temples, or these, like somebody was living in there. Now I know one thing: when you go to New Mexico, and you can kind of see because it tripped me out when I went through New Mexico. Was it Albuquerque? But if you see it, look up in the mountains and hills. There's people living up in there, and you're thinking to yourself, how in the hell are they living in the mountains and hills like that? Who's ever been to New Mexico or live in New Mexico? I remember going through there. That was probably in '99 when I went through there. And you look up there in the mountains. I mean, it's just impossible for someone to be living up there. But yet you have these people that are living up there. It's very interesting to see. Now, another interesting thing about diving into this topic when I was again, because when I go look at a culture and an ancestor reveal the culture to me, I'm going to automatically look at their religion and their spiritual practices. Okay, and see the relationship that it has with anything that I know about. The most interesting thing about this is the Kachinas, and they're also called the Katsinas. They're spirit beings in the religious beliefs of those Pueblo people. They call Pueblo people. They were considered personification of natural elements, ancestors, various aspects of life. The Kachina belief system encompasses three main aspects: the supernatural beings themselves, the masked dancers. Remember, we talked about the mask the other day, how our ancestors they wear these masks because that represents their power and spirits, because that's what they're seeing on the other side when they go into these altered states of consciousness. Okay, the mass dancers who represent these spirits during rituals, and the Kachina dolls, which are carved representations of the Kachinas. The Kachinas, according to lore, act as messengers between the cosmic forces and earthly beings. They were born out of the need for balance to serve as conduits through which blessings and wisdom could flow. Various tribes have their unique tales describing the event of these spirits. In some accounts, they were born from elements air, earth, fire, and water, convening in the cosmic dance. In others, they are ancestral spirits who have transcended in the earthly plane, returning during the ceremonial occasions to interact with the living. I thought that was very interesting. And then we talked about how our ancestors had relationship with these elements. We talked about how you see a lot of that in the Orisha, you see a lot of that in the Loa, you see these elemental beings in some of our spiritual practices. I was just floored by this when I saw the Kachinas. Why did not? But you could see the dolls. People get the dolls as well to work with these sort of spirits. But each Kachina is unique. And the way I'm understanding in here is that these Kachinas can only be accessed through the community. When the community comes together, the Kachinas are there. So the Kachinas was with the people. This is what this is how they describe this interaction and spiritual connection that they had with their ancestors and their spiritual practices. It's just interesting, isn't it? I thought it was interesting. Maybe I'm being a nerd here. Maybe I'm being a nerd, but I thought it's very interesting and relatable because this is what I see among the ATRs as well. And this is part of, again, hoodoo, because we have those ancestral elements in our spiritual practice. We do honor those ancestors. Again, we have those, if it wasn't for them, because again, they was the agricultures, they cultivated the land. Hi, your precious Emerald. Hello, hello, TikTok family. Hello, hello, YouTube family. Hello, Trip. What is it? Hello, hello. Hey, Miss Penny, everyone. This is definitely a sign for me. My grandma and great grandma are from New Mexico, born and raised there. Okay, so I'm glad it's interesting to you. Trip that grid. Okay, so um again, this is just a very interesting topic, and no one talks about the Kachinas, but I can definitely tell you uh, about my experience by going out to the mounds. The ancestors are very strong at these archaeological sites. They will start speaking to you and talking to you if you're truly connecting with the land and talking to these land because these ancestors are connected to the land. It's just a very fascinating thing. And like I said, I ran by this a long time ago. I said, but you know what? I'm going to talk about these ancestors in honor of Hoodoo Heritage Month because I've heard no one talk about these ancestors. And these are our ancestors. Okay, I know that. Yeah, I'm not saying we don't have African ancestors. We absolutely do, but we also, I think, that's understated here is that we have indigenous ancestors as well in the Americas, more than anything else. And I think, and again, we came together as a nation, and Hoodoo shows that. Hoodoo shows that we came together as a nation, and kind of we blended our practices, especially when you see a banda. Now, when I was reading this, white, black is a status. That's exactly at Gloria Walters 4767. Yes, 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 I agree. I'm never new to Kachinas, so those are the ancestors. These spirits are connected in the Americas. Again, these are indigenous Americans that are connected with the elements there in America. Now, these energies are accessed. We were These ancestors was again just like you see in voodoo, like you see in Ifa. They connect through these elements to the ancestors. Yeah, because their ancestors were connected with these elements, just like you see some of these deities connected to these elements. But the thing about that, I'm gonna go deeper into this discussion to help you understand what is going on. But these ancestors, the way I understand it, is that they can only be accessed as a community, as one people. That's how the Kachinas were accessed. Okay, everybody, the whole community will have to be together. It was just something. It's fascinating when you think about that. So, and then I looked at Ambanda. Ambanda comes up again. I go to Ambanda because Ambanda has some heavy indigenous spiritual practices in it. It does. When you start looking at how they look at things. So let me just read this. See, I be putting things, ancestors be dealing with me, and then understanding these elements and how they're connected with the elements and why we do again uh, a lot of our spiritual practice are nature based, and that is really of uh the cycle of the ancestors, the cycle of life when you're looking at nature and the ancestors being linked together. But let me just read this. It says, among the Abanda are angels, and our particular category composed of elemental angels. See, they're going in. Like I said, when you start working with ancestors, you'll just be amazed at what happens here. Elementals are spirits that embody natural elements such as fire, earth, water, and air. Unlike Umbanda figures, these spirits are not present in different forms and only fluctuate in the element they govern. Their form is not physical as they have not mutated into other beings. Instead, it is an vibrational, it's energetical and vibrational. According to Umbanda, angels are the elementals fourth of the four elements, ether. They're ether. Now you will feel them, but these are not even the high archangels that they talk. Okay, and then a lot of these angels that they're talking about, some of them are ancestral. They are expressions of element that manifest as the oral form between the physical and metaphysical realms. These types of angels are beings that fluctuate in ether, and unlike the angels mentioned earlier, have been and are constantly present in everyone's life, transcending familiar bond and making it universal. The more of these angels are worshipped, the more enlightenment, protection, and clairvoyance humans will receive. By connecting to a specific element, the person creates a bridge between the element they are worshiping and themselves. In abandoned migration is always present. All spirits on earth will experience life in another form. These elemental angels will migrate inside the realm they belong. ether, which is not in human form. So he's telling you that these ancestors, when they reincarnate, some of them again go into the ethers or absorb into the elements. Their influence is tied to the collective belief and rituals of the communities that revere them. Neglecting ceremonial practices or waning of the faith can diminish the presence. So when you don't remember these ancestors, when you are not going out and connecting with these ancestors in the ethers outside, again, you weaken your connection with them. But as a community, it grows stronger. I think another author that kind of talks about this, that has a beautiful expression of this, because he gives you community ritual when it comes to ancestors. I think what is his name? Maladoma Some. I can't mention him enough. Okay. That's why I say you would have to come together. This is how our ancestors approach problems. When they had community problems, they came together, they did ritual, they did dance, they called on their ancestors, they called on their higher power. I think another good expression of this, I remember seeing this in the Bible. I don't know which where I seen it in the Bible, but I think here Herodotus was in this story. So I think he was writing a story, but this governor goes to, this is when they was taking over Israel, a lot of the Hebrew cities or whatever, and so he goes in to the temple and he tries to take the money. He tries to take the money and stuff they say for the poor, for the temples and all that stuff. So this soldier is going there. He's going to take that money. And the priest and the people is telling him, no, you cannot take that money. It don't belong to you and nobody else. It belongs here. And so the people start praying together. They start praying and begging God, they start praying together. And so soon as that man try to touch that money, they say an angel came, so beautiful, behold. He was beautiful, behold. See, he came down and beat the hell out that man. Beat the hell out that man and told him, "You, how dare you touch the money of God like this? It belonged to them." Oh my gosh! It said it said he was so beautiful to behold. Say he beat the hell out that man, and the priest had to stop the angel, and he said, "You better be lucky that this priest here today. You let him pray for you and pray that you heal." And just as fast as that angel appeared, he disappeared, and the people were prostrated before God. This is in the Bible now. That these people did when they got together and start praying, that the angel, they prayed that God showed themselves. During the prayer, they was like, God, show yourself, because he don't believe that you real. This is basically how the prayer was going. God please say, the whole village was saying that. And as they began to pray, an angel, beautiful to behold, striking, struck that man down, beat the hell out that man, and told that man, don't come back here like that no more. He had to go and tell his the president, whoever what the ruler was, that hey, it's something in that place. So he said, I don't want to go back because it's something. But the priest prayed for the man. He told he told whoever he was at. Now that's in the Bible. I forgot where I read it at. Okay. So you get the praying together. This is the power that we hold when you're on one accord. So there is something there. I'm gonna go more into detail about that because we're getting to go going in the conjure deeper when we talk about things like that. But yeah, that's what happened to that man. And that priest prayed for that man. That angel told him, you better let that man pray for you. You better hope his prayers are answered. And you better now. He went back to his ruler. He said something in that place. I do not want to go back there. Just coming in to show love. Ashe namaste. Until next time. Okay, thank you, Al Ward. Okay. So yeah, so it's definitely something get together. I just want to bring that power uh to your attention. Now another thing they talk about, I might get this wrong, but they call talk about this is what they call the indigenous population where they were. And so the Abanda call it the Caboclos. I hope I'm saying that right. have a fundamental knowledge and expertise of the art of shamanism. So again, they're connecting with those indigenous ancestors, and they call them caboclos. Okay, they're experts in the art of healing and herbalism, root work. Okay, they talk about their favorite instruments are pipes, herbal baths, because they believe the instruments promote spiritual truth. Again, they're going back to their ancestors again with these spiritual baths and things. Okay, it says that they are caboclos are subdivided into groups among other spirits that exist. Okay, so I thought I seen a very a good similarities when they were talking about the Kachinas and talking about the caboclos. I saw a very big connection with that. I don't think they're separate at all. That's just I think these the same people from the way I'm understanding it from the ancestors. Now you might call me crazy, say how you know that. I just trust the ancestors. A lot of the things the ancestors told me, I haven't heard before, and then we found out later as this history they start to uncover thing, archaeologists, and I be finding out that it's so. Okay, it's very true. These folks is up in here playing with words and playing with history and playing with stuff. Okay, and if you don't pick up a book and look at it for yourself, you find out you be in that book. That's how it's been happening for me. Okay, and they're telling you here again that these ancient Pluto people, they just vanished. They said they abandoned their settlement around the 12th century. Who abandons that? You mean they were colonized during the 12th century when the Spaniards came over here and colonized them, came over there and colonized them. And they just saying they disappeared. You get the same story with the pre-Columbian civilization, with the Andean periods and all that stuff when they started trying to put timelines on things. These people, same thing with the Indians. They let you know, oh, they half of them gone. When you done reclassified them to Negro, black, and all this other stuff. You done reclassified people from indigenous to Mexican to Latinas to something else, Afro, Mexican, all this kind of stuff. Then said that everybody was from all Africa. You know that's a lie. The Polynesian people ain't from Africa. These other people, that's just cut it out. These people are organically from where they are. That's where they been. That's where they always been, some of them. Now, a lot of people you did take some people and bought them, but took them over there to America. I ain't gonna lie about that. You did some of that, but a lot of these folks is right there still where they standing at now. A lot of them folks ain't from Africa. And they mamas and they daddies ain't told them that. You done put this in the book, and then you done brainwashed a lot of us to believe that. Okay, we all indigenous, absolutely. We're all indigenous. We're the first peoples. Yes, we are. But many of the places that we was at, we was already there. And now you trying to steal all the other places. I don't know what you trying to do. You trying to say all us from Africa. You trying to steal everything else and put everybody else because it's their land. That's your excuse for for saying you was there first. That's the only reason why I see you be sitting up saying something like that. So that you can say them people ain't from there either. Cause you know your butt ain't from there. Where you at, wherever you at, and you ain't you definitely over there in America's Africa, you sitting over there, you know damn well you ain't from there. Now you gonna say all everybody from Africa no, I just think you using that as a cop out. Okay, colonizers, I believe you using that you as an arterial motive, and our ancestors already told us they most indigenous people be standing on their land. They love their land, they take care of their land. And now here you come here, you need land, and now you gonna tell somebody which land they come from? Are you some y'all don't see something wrong with that? Somebody stealing land but gonna tell you where what land you come from. It don't make sense to me. I don't believe it. It's whole, and I believe the ancestors. I don't believe them. Hi, Devil Divine. Who are the Kachinos? I just joined. You'll have to go back and watch the Kachinos. All right, it is a spiritual system. and these spiritual elements that these so-called Plubo, they call Plubo Indians that vanished. And again, you have these Spaniards calling them that. Those people didn't call themselves that, just like you got people calling us black, Negro, Afro American, and our ancestors didn't say we were that. And so you got these people calling them that and then say they disappeared. And so these Kachinos were these ancestral spirits that were connected with the elements that our ancestor could access as a community. And I just got through making a reference in the Bible where you see this happen. And I think Herodotus was recording this, but that man, he never went back to that village again. He told that his ruler, he said, "Please don't send me back there again." He said, "Truly, there's something in that place." That angel beat the hell out of him. That's why I tell y'all, don't sleep on those angels. Don't sleep on them. Don't sleep on them angels. You think they can't put a whooping on somebody? You must be out your mind. They could put a hurting on someone. One. If you in alignment with the work, yeah, they'll get after somebody if they need to. Okay. But I thought that it was a very awesome story. You can buy these little now they have these little decorative kachinas. They're made different. Each one is unique to you. Um but that's probably something you want to go check out. I think those ancestors should be remembered. They are not forgotten. Okay? They are not forgotten. So I think, and those are indigenous ancestors there. And I don't think that's anything we should dismiss, because when you start contacting those ancestors, you really start learning the mysteries of nature and really know how to start using it in your workings. They'll start showing you stuff, how to use nature in your working. So, and even to heal, talking to trees, they'll help you with all that. That's just been my experience. I'm just weird like that, you guys. And then I have an affinity for the ancestors as well. So I didn't want that to be forgotten. Those are our people. I'm just telling you. They telling you who they is. They when they start doing stuff like that and telling you they don't know who they is, they vanished and all this stuff. They said the same thing about your ancestors. They said the same thing about us. They don't know. And now we all us from Africa, and they know that ain't true. They done read that in their history book. There was dark skinned people already here. And then some of the Native Americans, the one that looked kind of pale face, they asked them who built these artifacts, and they said, "We don't know. It wasn't us." Okay, but we're gonna go more into that, helping you kind of understand these, how these spirits work as a community when we get together. So we'll probably talk about that in another discussion. I'm not gonna go into that right now because it's kind of heavy and deep. It's kinda heavy and deep, and I would rather go through it first with over there, and then maybe you guys will be ready for it here. Now, since we talked about that, the Kachinas, we talked about the Plubo people, or Pleboan people, or what they're calling it, the Spaniards are calling them the Anasazi people. They just call you anything, honey, when they want to, and then change your name. I wonder, where them people at now, and they probably still there, but now they call them Afro Mexican and saying they from Africa. They probably doing that, y'all. Just that's what something that okay. When they did that slave trade, that I think that was a thing too, to bring some of them over and just say, "Hey, we're gonna change their bloodline and say all of them come over from over there." And that way we just take their land. So when they get to thinking that they come from here, we be like, "Nah, you from over there. You need to go over there." That's the only way I said. Well, I don't see no other way why you doing that. The same way when I looked at that Prince Hall Mason and saw that he made an African lodge and ain't none of them from Africa. Why are you making an African lodge, sir? Now we got bootleg everywhere. Hey, African hyphen, we're doing great, sweetie. So now we're gonna go into Obeah. I know you saying, Miss Penny, we're going over that again. We have to. We have to. Every so often, I'll give people that want me to discuss Obeah, and they think that I know a lot or I do obey whatever, and it's just, and I think it's just the wisdom and the knowledge the ancestors have put in me about the topic, because I inquire about a lot of things with the ancestors because I'm nosy. I may not do it, but I might inquire with the ancestors to open my mind about it, and we start having discussions about it. And I believe what they say. Okay, I believe what they say. They just know more than what's in books and what people have written down. Okay, and you will have to learn to start trusting the spirit and stop listening to people so much. You can read a book, you can read a little bit, but the book is supposed to give you an indication about who you is, because you know these some of these people, especially if they don't look like you, they is gonna put some lies in that book. They're gonna try to obscure some things. And even when I go down to read some books, when they talking about our spiritual practices, and it be the people don't look like us, I have to put it down because it ticks me off the way you are talking about our spiritual practices. And it is all, some of it be lies sometimes, or it be from uh eh, not a good perspective. Okay, and yet y'all got to come right back over here and pick this up, because if it was that ugly and all that stuff, why you over here? Why you want some of this sauce? Why do you want some? Even when you go with hoodoo and conjure, they can talk about that, but I can't talk we can't look at North American folk magic without looking at hoodoo. Hoodoo is North American folk magic. It is that none of them can talk about their practice without talking about our practice. And that is you can't overstate that fact. Okay? We getting ready to go into North American magic too when you start to look at it. You can't overstate that fact. When it comes to North American uh folk magic, hoodoo conjure is the forerunner. That's why they always trying to sell something to you. Okay? I know that's hard for you to believe. So Miss Penny, I thought it was witches and all that. Even with the witches, they still learning from you. Where you think they got it from? Okay, I'm telling you the truth. I can show to you that. You ain't gotta believe me. I can just give you the materials. You see it for yourself. You'll see it for yourself. You'll be like, wow, I didn't know that we left such an impression on magic like that. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You left such an impression on magic like that. Uh, Again, it was very influential in other magical circles. Everybody was studying you. Okay, they were studying your ancestors. Now, so when you talk about Obeah, I had some guy to get in my box. I want to read this email to you guys. He got in my box. His name was Black Magnus. And I get these people from time to time when we go over bed, and we're gonna go over this again. I'm gonna try to give you as much insight as I can. Cause this guy, when after he sent me this email, he sent me down another rabbit hole. Like it's it I'm reading the email. Listen. Hi, thanks for all the videos you have done on Obeah. Because you have shared so much about your discoveries, I will share some of mine with you as well. A great teacher online is Al Achad. Call him Al Achad. Below, I will post some of his links. Some are for paid video courses, but well worth it. He is teaching what Obeah is, not how to do Obeah. That's the only thing they can tell you. I can tell you what Obeah is, but I can't tell you how to do Obeah. And this is what this guy's doing. Now, I've seen some of the books that he can have, but again, he's probably going to be coming from the same perspective in the way I discuss Obeah, in the way the ancestors have explained it to me. What he says, his Patreon membership is excellent for giving broad outlook on Obeah. He teaches what the mother of Obeah is. I think you have slightly talked on Ob, but not what do you say, Obeah. Obeah is derived from something much older. Obeah. You can't even find. I can't even find a book on that. And like I told, he said I spoke on it. Like the ancestors told me, this is old. This is an old ancient practice. And then I was talking to the ancestors last night about it. I'm gonna tell you what they told me last night. Said it was already there. Uh, like they said, Obeah has always been there, but it always resided with the indigenous cultures. And because it was so prominent and all indigenous cultures practice it, nobody just really wrote it down. Just like you see hoodoo, it was kind of like immersed in society. Now you seeing it, like they told me too. They say because it's the oldest form of occultism, it's the oldest form of magic, and you they said that too. You can kind of see the comedic. The more again we start to advance and use this again in our everyday life, our technology, and advance and expand on it. You have the our comedic ancestors trying to write some of this down. I know you're trying to help me. I just pronounce things wrong sometimes, so please forgive me. Okay? Wadu, please don't come for me. People ask me to talk about this subject, and that's what I do. And I don't know enough, but I'm just telling you what it is. Okay? But you can see echoes of it when uh they start to write down the science of it because this is the science of sound, the science of color, um, what else? The science of sound, the science of the elements, the unseen elements such as gases, such as fire, uh, earth as well. So, plant knowledge, the spirits of plants. See, they knew all of that. Okay, and so you'll see that. But the most ancient form would have resided with those first ancestors, with those first indigenous cultures. That's why I've seen who've had the most powerful uh, form of this have been in that era with those ancestors. Because a lot of this knowledge it just was oral. It was just not written down. Just like you see some of these hoodoo customs that we do now, our ancestors didn't write that down. Don't whistle in the house. They didn't write that down. Don't sweep nobody's feet. It's just something you knew that was practiced just like that. That's just like that. My mom's boyfriend, probably didn't write that down to come to show me how to do that with that dog. But again, they knew how to do that. Oh, I'm doing stuff different here. Oh, did I lose something? Okay, there I go. That's something he learned again after in the country. That's the connection that he had with the country. That's the connection your ancestors show you that you have with all living things. He knew he was connected to that dog and he could do that. Okay. And so when you are talking about this practice too, most of these people that are skilled at this practice, and I see it all the time, these folks don't be around other people. Yeah. Look, the A can stem from the Kemetic as well, using words like cry, a coma, the Orisha baby is dropping some things in there. It's gonna go back to that, but again, this is an ancient folk magic. And then our ancestors they start writing it down, but you still had the people, the regular people, still doing this. Where do you think the spiritual baths and all that stuff come from? Where do you think all that come from? It comes from them, these people here, because they were tending to the land. They had this relationship. And so you have their younger generation, their grandparents already knew this generation. And so you have the young generation advancing some of this and using it to advance civilization. Just like you see now with this technology, we got their younger generation coming in, advancing on the technology that we already had. It's just advanced. Same thing, nothing different. And so you thought, it didn't get wrote down because it was familiar, just like you see hoodoo. Hoodoo didn't get wrote down. That's why I said you can start looking at Obeah and you start looking at hoodoo, you be like, it's the same, but it's not. Because Obeah, and I'm sorry I'm pronouncing it wrong, uh, it is connected with these elements and nature. It is this mystery, earth science. And I don't even think I'm doing it any justice by even saying that. I don't. Okay. They're saying the Obeah practice largely derived from the Ashanti origins. The Ashanti and other Twi peoples from the Gold Coast formed the largest group of enslaved in the British Caribbean colon, colonies. Obeah bears a similarities with Quimbos. Quimbos was essentially a variation of Obeah. And that's why I tell you, when you start looking at some of these ATRs, you'll see elements of Obeah in it because it all come from there. Even when you start looking at our Parthenons, they're kind of all similar across the board. These energy signatures, they're kind of the same. We're still identify some of these similar energies and using them in our spiritual practice. I hope this making sense. Okay, so you will see, but the most powerful Obeah uh, person that I've seen, and that was in that era when you were seeing, that Jim Crow era when a whole bunch of stuff coming in, because those ancestors at that time had a lot of that indigenous knowledge. They were already connected to the land. Another example of that, I think over there in Africa, they were trying to find out if somebody was lying about stealing something. And they take these leaves or these straw leaves and they wrapping them around the person. Now, if these leaves lock together, that means that person was lying. Again, that's indigenous knowledge that they have over there. They had knowledge just like that. Okay. Just like too, I was talking to a friend of mine who was an old, her auntie was a hoodoo practitioner. I didn't know what she was telling me at first, but she said her aunt used to turn the Bible if somebody stole some from her, and she talked about how her mom, her auntie would wrap that Bible and talk to that Bible and put a key in the Bible and turn the Bible. If the Bible faced that person, then that's the person who stole her stuff. Okay, this again, these are indigenous kind of that sort of knowledge that was in our ancestors like that. And and if you was to learn that type, again, everybody don't need these secrets. That's what I'm saying too. A lot of them they didn't release a lot of these secrets to people because it could be dangerous with the things they could do. You talking about some of them could utter a certain vibration and put somebody down. They could say a few words and bam, it happened. Okay. It says the Quambos, as evidenced by one of his possible etymological origins, derives its existence from Africa, is animist right. And we talked about animist. They're going right back to animism, right back to animism, right back to nature, right back to plants. This is going to get more interesting. Brought by slavery, these rites developed creolized and spread in the Antilles. They're letting you know they were creolized. So you see a little bit, you're going to see it a little bit of everywhere. It would seem, according to some Quimbos, magic developed as a form of resistance to slavery, thanks to the knowledge of the poisonous plants. Now, remember me telling you that these poisonous plants were warriors, and how the ancestors took me uh, down to the plant kingdom, to the plant spirits, and these poisonous plants was telling me they was warriors. See, I couldn't make this up. It tripped me out when I ran into this, looking at Obeah. I said, "Oh my God!" Just more confirmation. Okay. Thanks to the knowledge of poisonous plants of the Quimbos practitioners, they use them to poison their masters, other slaves, or even drought animals. Not just anyone can practice Quimbos. One becomes a Quimborseur after initiation and transmission of knowledge from generation to generation. Just like I told you, you had to be with the ancestors to transfer some of this stuff. They had to teach you, take you out in nature and start showing you different things and how to do magic with nature. You learned that at a very early age. Poisonous plants were used heavily to put people down and dominate. I'm telling you. And some of them, you got to remember too, some of them came over here with magic already in them. They can say a couple, they knew vibrational words. They knew a vibrational word that could again stop their enemy. Why you think they had that stuff in their mouth? They had a lot. They were uh enslaving a lot of women like that. That could just say some things, and that's another thing too. They didn't want you speaking in your own words. They wanted to get rid of your own language because your own language was magical. So they had to take that out of you too. Your own language was magical because if you were saying it in your own language, it made it that more powerful and worked that much quicker. Because your I hope this making sense. Your language was magic. My ancestors just showed me a poisonous flower yesterday in a trance they threw me in. Okay. Like I tell you, they told me they were warriors. Because of this position, he is respected, he is feared, solitary, isolated from the population. Most of these workers, you know, they're mystical characters, guarantees of the tradition, a bit of a shaman, a bit of a diviner, um, a bit of a medium, a bit of a healer, an authentic Creole symbol. Uh, again, it got mixed in too. They're calling it Creole. I don't know why they call that. Remains discreetly but deeply alive on the island. Okay, they're talking about the Caribbean. Obeah does not strictly center around deities who manifest through divination and possession of their worship. However, practitioners can choose to work with deities in their practice as they do with spirits. Like I told you, they work directly with spirits. These folks don't even live, they live in isolation. They don't even live with people. You're talking to somebody who communicates with spirits all the time because of the Hispanic and the Portuguese influence. Most were sent to Haiti and Cuba and Jamaica. Okay, so you heard the Arisha baby in the comments, and so what I want to break down some people now to help you understand. And just like this gentleman got in my inbox, they emailed me. I said I wish you would have put this on the post so people could see this. It kind of confirms too what the ancestors was telling me about Obeah, and then he sent me down a rabbit hole again because I'm trying to find these books and find this man. And again, it's limited material. He did leave a author with me. He said he was selling three very old ebooks on Obeah of Ghana. Ghana African, but it seems like he has retired and debunked that website. The witchcraft books were by author Gabriel Bannerman Richter. Gabriel Bannerman Richter. That's who he said that wrote these three very old books. But even then, if you were to get those books, I don't even think they're telling you how to do it. They're telling you about it. They're telling because that the only thing they can show you is the evidence of it and tell you how it works. Tell you how it impacted a situation or what happened in the situation. But I've again, because it's an innate thing, and you will hear these people will say, "Obeah is you. You is Obeah. Obeah call you. You don't call Obeah. You are Obeah." And so, just with making that statement like that, they're letting you know the transformation and transfiguration that has to happen to access that sort of magic. And just in the esoteric statement. Okay, the Orishas, baby, can you send them to me too? Definitely my Nana initiated me into Obeah and Comfort Young. You have to do it at a very young age. And again, it's just like my grandmother, she was telling me she already knew from a young age how to split a storm. Okay, they already know about plants and things like that. And then your ancestor depending because it's familiar and it was done so much, you'll have different ancestors that know different little things of how to access it. Now, if you get another Obeah working man or woman, if they're learning anything and learning more, these people are directly learning from spirits because your ancestors was already opening you up to that. They were already opening you up to the magic, and then it didn't seem like magic to you. It was a way of life for you. And for someone else looking in at us, it looked like magic to them. But to us, again, just like hoodoo got stuck in there. We didn't see it like magic. It was a way of life for us. We was used to seeing it. Just like when I was young and I had premonitions and things like that, everybody in my family act like it was normal. So I thought that happens with everybody's family. I thought everybody experienced these type of spiritual incidences until somebody told me, no, that's not normal. I said, no, it's not. Okay, so it depend, and they looking in to them, just like you got them looking in to them. Egypt was magical. It was this, it was that, but to them, it was a metaphysical science. They knew the science. That's why you got everybody coming there. But my nana would call me too, cause if my sight, cause a second sight. But my nana would call me too, cause it was my sight and cause of my second sight. And so you'll have these people that, and again, I don't even think these people, uh, um, if you to catch one, real practices Obeah, that's what they do. You got to find them people, and I don't even think they will be calling themselves that. Just to tell the truth, some of them they just know how to work with spirits. They probably don't even know that they have that in them. Like they're probably not even calling themselves that. Okay. But they're definitely these people, they do know things about nature. And you really start to understand too why hoodoo is closed, because you start to see a lot of those indigenous practice with your ancestors, knowing how to split storm, knowing how what tree to go talk to go to get certain things done, knowing what plant. Nobody else won't know that, but you'll see that in indigenous knowledge over here in hoodoo. We have this indigenous knowledge over here, don't nobody have. Okay. They don't know about this again, the mystery systems of the indigenous cultures. And again, this is the shamanism sort of a occultism. That has never been written down. It's passed on orally. Guyana people, my people is from Brazil, and Guyana it stays on my mom's side. Okay. But these people now you get a lot of people saying, oh, I know Obeah, and you get a lot of people, most of them have turned out to be scams. Okay, not I don't know any ones that was doing the work like they was doing it in that era, during the Jim Crow era, because again they got a lot, got rid a lot of them. Now, if they are doing it, you're not going to know about it. They're just not going to share that type of information with you because of the secrets they know, and they know if that type of knowledge get into the wrong hands, it could mess up the balance of things. Even with them having that type of access and power like that, they're very careful of how they use it. And believe me, they know stuff. They know stuff. Believe me when I tell you this. Okay. And they don't the work way we work with deities, and this is another thing that's different about Obeah too. The way we work with deities in hoodoo is totally different how a Obeah person would work with the deity. They kind of on the same, they work with deities like they on the same level of the deity. That's how they approach it. These people will very be good at calling down spirits, and in such a way, a perfected ceremonial sort of magic. They know how they would have perfected that. They don't. It'll be different if they've mastered. If they own down. I don't have. This is what the ancestors told me. I can't be just naming a few. Only so much I can type in a. Okay. So, and I've had a lot of people again. You cannot. There is no book on it. And just like Black Magnus tell me, there was the man, he doesn't teach Obeah, but he talk about Obeah. It's all we can do because it's ancestral. And if you were to know want to know more about it, you would have to deeply study the occult. And again, these people's lives are devoted to spirit. If that's what you want, you're you gonna be with spirits. You ain't gonna be around no whole bunch of people. Nah. You're gonna be over there with them spirits, taking care of them spirits, talking to them spirits. That's what you're gonna do. Same way like when you get over there in Ifa, voodoo, the religion. You think you're gonna be over there hoodooing and stuff. No, you ain't. No, you ain't. They ain't what you gonna be doing. Because they got rituals and everything already set up for that. You're gonna be doing that. That's what you're gonna be doing. You ain't gonna be doing a whole bunch of what you think you're gonna be doing. It's just very different. You're gonna be following them spirits, listen to them spirits, and that's what you're gonna be doing. Be get dedicated to those spirits, and there's certain things you're gonna ain't gonna be able to do because you can see these spirits. I just know I don't have a living person showing me things, but they started me looking into. Okay. And that's how the ancestors explained to me. I used to think that just like you guys, I was very interested in Obeah. I could not find a lot of information on it, but when I started talking to the ancestors about it and started reading about it, because I learned a lot of stuff too just by going through history and reading about these different stories and different experiences people have had with it. I discovered too that hey, this is not for an ordinary person, especially when the occultist is telling you would have to read every occult book, and it also has a thing that was interesting about it too because it shows like some Asiatic type of roots in it as well. Where was I reading that at? Yeah, it says here these practices derive from much from West African traditions, but also incorporate elements of European, South, and Asian origin. Then it started understanding too. I said, "Oh my gosh, I got Hinduism in it too." Okay, so they let you. But again, I think it comes from even more older than that. That just got incorporated into it later to connect with that ancient knowledge that they saw that was in in another culture. Okay, so again, when you're looking at that and you think that you want to go down that road, you want to jump into initiation. I have to tell people this, and you think that that title is going to get you uh, closer to that spirit. That's just not so. It takes alignment to reach some of these spirits. You even see that in hoodoo. Okay, and when you in initiation, there's still rituals and things like that to keep you in continual alignment with these deities. That's why those rituals and protocols are over there in the when you initiate. Same thing that's gonna go on with Obeah. You think Obeah, you ain't gonna pay no heavy price to have this knowledge. You're gonna pay a heavy price because you're gonna be over there serving them spirits and serving the community. Most of these people, if they're doing in the work, they're strictly serving the community in such a way. They probably can, but what I'm saying here, there's always a structure set up for that. Okay. Now you see this person in here said Ifa devotees can go Hindu prayers and vice versa. See? See how closely it's related? Okay, yes, Hindu very similar to Ifa, different techniques but similar. You see Hinduism. Somebody saying it looks like Ifa, and to me it looked like Voodoo. I haven't even looked at it through the eyes of Ifa. I've looked at it through the eyes of Voodoo, but it makes sense that it would align with Ifa as well. Because I tell you, you go in there, you start looking at Ifa, you start looking at Voodoo. Them Hindu deities pop up over there in Voodoo, and they pop up over there. Now somebody saying Ifa. You tell me what it is, but I know these people telling you. And now you got it in conjure, and I know people's telling you. No, you got to be in the religion to do this. You know, you got to be in, when you start following them ancestors, that just goes out the window. I'm just sorry. It just goes out the window when you start, following these ancestors. Now that somewhere down the road they might want you to do that, then you have some ancestors they don't want you to do that. They just want you to again communicate in the form of relationship either with the saint, with the archangel, or a Loa or an Orisha. Sometimes and some of them do, they drag you in there. You got some people that's dragged in initiation. I didn't want that for myself, and I've explained that already because I didn't want to do all that stuff. Okay, I didn't want to be into another religion. But what I'm telling you was when you start following the ancestors and they start keep your mind open and try not to get stuck in other people's perspective, because when you start following the ancestors, again their journey is not going to match up with a lot of what a lot of people are saying. And I know this is not a popular topic because I know you've heard it over and over again: initiation, initiation, initiation. And I'm going to tell you that there is no telling if you are consistent with your ancestors, you're communicating with your ancestors, and you're trying to grow and develop with them. There is no telling where your ancestors is going to take you. They might, it just, and that's the end of that. Okay, because most of these practices are ancestral as well. So when they start sending you somewhere, you know I've seen it too many times, but there is no initiation for this simple, but just around itself highly dangerous. Okay. But the protocol, again, I have to keep this. Now, I understand why you're saying that's dangerous. So I want you to remember this: not everybody is approaching it the way you guys are approaching it. And that's just a lot, because when you start looking at the among African diaspora and looking at how each one of these religions, ATRs, are approaching their Orishas, most of them have their own approach. And some of them disagree on each other's approach. Everybody's not happy with that. But one thing is for sure, it's working because they're still doing it that way. Okay. That if you follow your ancestors, your most elevated ancestors, that is the safest way to do it. Do not do it on your own. That's why all of this is ancestral. Okay, that may lead you to work with the saint. Even when you start looking at the saints, they have synchronized that with voodoo. That's been synchronized with the Orisha, and it's been synchronized with voodoo. So even if they have you working with a saint, it's gonna be for a reason. And they'll tell you as you move on and serve that saint or work with that archangel, whatever it may be, you'll start finding out more information. The coolest thing I learned about Obeah is when they said our ancestors communicated with the elements so deeply that they could say a phrase and make the fire appear out of the air. Exactly what they did. They can make it rain just by a phrase. These are indigenous mysteries and occultism that they wanted to get their hand on, but that's why a lot of it was closed. They kept it closed like that. I think that's too why parts of hoodoo is closed. Okay, certain things you see in families that they just keep in that family. Okay, okay, they just keep in that family. So that's important to understand about a beer. But I don't think, again, this is familiar. This is generation to generation. This is a highly indigenous occult knowledge that was never written down. And we didn't think about writing it down because, again, it was familiar. It was a way of life. And you'll, like I said, you'll see a little bit of that as the information as you go on. Just things they knew about saliva, things they knew about urine, things they knew about the body. They just knew that kind of knowledge. I remember my mom was telling me, it just tripped me out. I don't know how true this was, but she was telling me, she said, back in the day, these pregnancy tests is different now because we didn't used to have no pregnancy test where you can go in and just, uh, urinate on the stick and then they tell you whether you're pregnant. I said, well, what was y'all doing when y'all find out y'all pregnant? She said, I don't know how. She said you would go to the doctor and then they would take some blood from you and they would come back and tell you the rabbit died. I said, what are you saying here? So y'all injecting the rabbit with your DNA? Is that what you're doing to find out if you're pregnant? She said, I think that's what we was doing. And see, I'd have never known that secret. Another, I could tell you another thing that they use now that was an ancient thing you probably don't know of. Some people know of, but our ancestors knew of. Again, this is all like indigenous knowledge as well. But some people, when you got a bed sore, they treat it with maggots. They'll peck it with maggots. They'll put some KY jelly there, and then they'll take a patch and they will fill that bed sore with full of maggots and let those maggots eat the infection until they die. Did you know that? They try to get rid of it, but you see a lot of doctors that still practice this method to treat bed sores. Our ancestors know the wildest stuff. I make it sound like feel like a wimp. You don't know you know it, you know. But them doctors, they saw that because our ancestors was using it and it worked. And when they pull that patch out, the maggots being ate out of the infection, you can see they be full of the infection and they die. Okay. No, it give you the heebie jeebies, but it works, you guys. It works and it helps heal those bed sores. So, they knew how to use nature. They knew that this is the kind of medicine they saw in nature, and now we've been cut off from a lot of it. We're getting ready to go through a lot of this, some of this stuff. But even the books we read about herbs and stuff, that's still not all the knowledge. Like we learn about these plants, and you're not really gonna get that knowledge until some of it too. If you sit in nature long enough, the ancestors start talking to you when you start looking at paying attention to different insects and how they move and things like that. The ancestors, you sit there long enough, they'll start teaching you things. And I think it too that happens too as you get older. You start recognizing a lot of a lot of things and putting connections together. Especially if you know a lot about that doctrines of signatures. There's a lot of magic in that just by you knowing how these plants and stuff look. It's unfortunate a loved one went through hard times with the flesh eating disease. River bath or throwing specific stones helps. Yep. I am from the island and learned about the bush from my Rasta dad and uncle. See that they'll just pass it down. It just be like that. You'll just know stuff. I remember this young lady was coming to me and uh her baby had diarrhea and she just did everything. The doctors kept telling her to get that baby juice. Get that baby juice and get that baby fruits and I said, that don't make no sense to me why you would keep doing that and the baby ain't got no problem going to the bathroom. The baby is going to the bathroom too much. That's the problem. Is he getting constipation food mixed up with diarrhea? And she didn't know what to do. And she had kept on taking her baby to the doctor. She said, Miss Penny, I just don't know how to get rid of it. My baby just keep on. My baby had a runs or whatever. What should I do? I said, don't give him no more that juice no more. You just need to get him some water and feed him some bananas. She said, what? I said, get him some water and feed him some bananas. He gonna stop that diarrhea, gonna stop that up. He gonna stop doing that diarrhea. She called me, I think the next time I saw her 2 or 3 days later, she was so happy. She said, "Do you know he ain't got diarrhea no more when you told me to do that? No diarrhea no more. No diarrhea." Now this is a highly educated, she's a college educated woman. You understand me? But she didn't know that. She didn't know that bananas would knock out that diarrhea. She didn't know that. Okay. And she was so, yep, bread, rice. Yep. Bread and rice will knock out diarrhea too. But see, she didn't know that. But see, this is the kind of knowledge that our ancestors, we already knew. We knew the plants. Um, we knew what animals to work with to get medicine from. We knew what plants to go to get medicine from. We knew how to make it rain. Uh, and with the Obeah man and woman, because I'm trying to find words. You're talking to somebody that lives out the physical reality. And when you understand occultism and how our ancestors were showing us that we were connected to nature, you didn't have to read these occult books as you was already learning it firsthand. Like these people have to read the occult books and understand their connection to nature. But our ancestors already taking us out in nature, showing us these connections, showing us the science of it. What they're calling magic, our ancestors knew as science. I hope that made sense. Yeah. Of course, as a CNA, you're gonna know more than them because again, you're right in contact with the patient or the resident, so you can see more than what they see. They listen to the doctor. You listen to the resident and the patient. Those are two different things. So yeah, you're gonna be able to assess their needs better than the nurse or the doctor. Most CNAs do because they come in direct contact with the resident or the patient. That's where the true healing happens. It's coming from your energy, not the doctor's energy, not the nurse energy. Because when the CNA comes in contact with the patient, you're responsible for, you start to see that not only their body is sick, but their house messed up. So they body, their spirit messed up. So now you got to lift them up, inspire them to love themselves. All that goes in the caretaking, and it drains your energy. And then you start loving on this patient or this resident, and then they pass on because you have poured energy into them. The healing comes from the person that's in close proximity of the person. That's the real healer. And they got you thinking you ain't nothing when really they should be paying CNAs a lot more money than they do nurses and doctors because you're coming, the real healing happens when you come in contact with the patient. Okay, so that's the real deal. You'll notice that too. I've had a lot of nurses too start coming to me uh for energy readings, buying different crystals and things like that to um protect their energy when they're working on the floor with these different sick people, which is nothing but spirits and diseases. That's how disease are, is spirits in people. Okay. But again, I've seen some people chime in here on the TikTok that talked a little bit about Obeah, very popular in the Caribbean. I don't think it was just there in the Caribbean. That's what it was called in the Caribbean. I think it's in other places too. I don't think it was just popular in the Caribbean. I think it went other places too, and it was called something else. Just on the fact that what other people were able to do, like Marie Laveau, I think she had some of that in her, Obeah in her. It's a magic too that was in our ancestors, and indigenous knowledge that was in our ancestors. So I believe it's in some ancestors too. I don't believe it was just there, but it was more prominent in over there was just more noticeable over there in the Caribbean. But if you start looking at what these ancestors was doing, like Marie Laveau, and them putting snakes in people and stuff like that. Some of the magic they was doing, that's evidence of that Obeah power in some of them. Because everybody can't successfully work with some of these spirits, and everybody can't do a sort of that sort of sorcery. You would have to be you would have to know that knowledge. I use herbs on him and he is better giving him all them pills. Yep, Congos. That's true. So again, you would have to know that knowledge. And so I don't think it was just with the Caribbean. I think it was in a lot of places just based on the fact some of this magic that these ancestors was doing. That's why they say you don't find Obeah, Obeah find you. You are Obeah. Obeah is you. That's why that's the occult esoteric phrase they have to that. So if you didn't have that connection with the ancestors or you are not working closer with the ancestors, then you're not going to know that knowledge. And that most of the people that do, they know it is through their ancestry. And if you're going to be taught by spirits, because of all the mystery that is in the indigenous um, knowledge there, you would have to earn the trust of those spirits. You have to earn the trust of those spirits. And that is going to take a lot of devotion and a lot of commitment. Just working with my ancestors and doing certain things is still a journey. It's certain things I still got to prove myself on before they say, okay, okay, now since you did that, we'll help you because we see you serious now. Because if them spirits don't see you serious and you're not working on your character and things like that, it's just certain things they're not going to help you with. And if anybody that's, you know, doing magic or working with spirits or deities or whatever, you can attest to that. Okay. Again, I had to come here because somebody again and let you know what I found about Obeah. And how this comes up every so often. People are jumping my box and people think that I know or I practice Obeah. I absolutely do not practice it. I know about it. I've looked at it. And it's only through stories just like you. And I've talked to the ancestors about it. They've told me a little bit about it. Uh, I know it when I see it. I know when people are doing things that it's because there's some occultists that can't do things that our ancestors was doing in Obeah. I need to put that out there. That's why that fascinated them because they were doing things that occultists hadn't even perfected yet in their stuff. And it was woe in them. Okay. The only book I know that they're referencing to, like they said, that Hinduism and that Indian occult book written by what is it, D.L.E. Lawrence, and it's an Indian Oriente book. When they talk about Obeah, even that, you're not really scratching the surface of it. Okay. But there is nothing out there, a book on it. In the books that this young man had referred to me, you're not going to learn about Obeah. They're just probably going to be telling you stories and the force and the energy of Obeah because it's very different from regular hoodoo. It's very different from any sort of magic. It's very different from voodoo. It's very different from Ifa. It's just very different. A true Obeah because you're looking at raw primordial energy, and that's why I say that. It's heavy and scary, and sometimes I want to be normal. I left the church because I had to. It never left me alone. I wonder how I knew so much and came to my gift. And some things you just know too. Uh, that it's a lot of ancestral memory coming on with that. And sometimes you'll tap into it. When you start following your ancestors, they'll start you start doing things on your altar and some things that you just know how to do. You don't know how you doing it. A lot of it's ancestral memory too. A lot of these Obeah priests and men, they were just born with, and they knew how to access that ancestral wisdom. Now you got some people that try to go into meditation and do shamanic work, um, and try to access that information that way. And you absolutely can if you work with your ancestors. But again, they're going to be looking at character, because most people that was given this type of access had uh, they were high priestess and they had very good character. They understood the balance of nature, and so they wouldn't abuse it. So if anybody was to get their hands on it now, I wouldn't even trust it, because people abuse magic too much. They like the word magic too much. They like that too much. They too quick to pick up something and do something. And with Obeah, it is that them people don't operate like that, because they know the responsibility that they have. Okay. A good idea to help you understand it. Kinda, I don't even think I'm um putting justice to it, but it's like a Doctor Strange type of reality that they live in. It's like a Doctor Strange sort of reality that they live in. That's the reality that they kind of live in. Okay. So, and that's a heavy responsibility. I don't think you want it. I don't think you want that. That's not what you want. It's a big responsibility. These people really don't. You think you're gonna get it and you're gonna get some power and get rich and all that. No, you ain't. No, you ain't. I wish y'all talks to some of these real priests and priestess that's in some of these religion, because they'll give you a good idea of what you're getting yourself into when you get over there in these religions. I wish they would talk to you about the older ones that's been in it for a while. If they showed you what all that goes on, it entails their responsibility and dedication to being in Ifa, being in voodoo, in a religion like that, and trying to be initiated in that, in the way that they're putting it to you, you probably wouldn't be doing it that way, because it takes a lot of energy. Your life is a way of life. Same thing over here in hoodoo. People want to jump over here in hoodoo, and they think, oh, I can get over here and just do all these magic spells. Yeah, you think you're gonna be doing that, but you got to remember this is ancestral. Ain't nothing gonna be moving and popping if your ancestral veneration ain't together. And if you're not working with healthy ancestors, and you just think it's just about family members, then you're gonna be sadly mistaken. I don't know how that magic gonna turn out for you. So it is levels to this over here. Just say the certain things you're gonna be able to do if you're not a alignment with your magic, and if you're not connecting with good ancestors, because surely it goes beyond family. These family, it goes beyond that. When you start understanding ancestral veneration and following the ancestors. And I think we limit it a lot when you think, "Oh, Imma get over here and Imma do all these spells and Imma have family members on my altar." And then you start hitting blocks and stuff, and you wonder what's going on. When you ain't did no healing work, you haven't did any of that with your ancestors. You got ancestors on there, that was working and all this stuff before they passed away. They was tired, and now you trying to work them again in the spirit world. And now you wonder what's going on. No, 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 no. You know, it is levels to this, and you will be following the ancestors. There's still certain things you would have to be able to do to get work done, and then understanding that hoodoo is a science. I know what you see up here, and people like to explain it as a magic, but it is, you start seeing the work you do and how you're parent using your mouth to conjure and call in stuff. Uh, Knowing that things have to be done at a certain time, and your ancestors got a certain time they want you to do magic. They got a certain time, a certain day, and all that for you to do magic. And then sometimes they don't want you doing that. They want you somewhere praying, they want you somewhere fasting. That is, sometimes the prayer and the fasting, the baths is the magic. Okay, so again, you still gonna be following ancestors. I don't think any person that has a grounded practice such as this, they don't do anything without getting spiritual guidance. They don't just go out and think, "Oh, I'm gonna do this tomorrow." They think, "Oh, I'm gonna ask my spirit guides or I'm gonna ask my ancestors, would this be a right thing for me to do?" That's usually how that works. Mhm. So again, take your time with this knowledge. You go down the rabbit hole of Obeah. I've given you that knowledge about that if that's something that you want to look into. But the most knowledge you're going to get from it is going to be from your ancestors and not from a person. Okay. Anybody have any questions for me or want to add anything to it? Because I seen people in the comments adding stuff to it. Um, the Ifa, somebody said something about Ifa, unshackle emotions was talking in there. It was someone else I saw too. Okay. Use the herbs and better. Okay. And so we've covered lot of things over there in our community. And like I said, you start looking at Bill too. They tell you that they have adopted Asian uh, Asian some Asian spiritual concepts in there. So and again, when you start really truly looking at hoodoo and you start looking at conjure, you can't help but look at all the other things and find out what hoodoo really is. And so to really understand a hoodoo, we look at all the spiritual practices of our ancestors and understand how did they come about, because these were the things our ancestors was looking at that develop what they call, somebody is calling us hoodoo. I've never heard an ancestor call it, but that's what they're calling it. And then when you look at all the folk magic that you see in North America, especially in North America, hoodoo was very influential and impressed and very impressionable upon the other folk magics that was around them. Okay. If you're interested in learning more about this discussion, if you're interested in lectures and discussions and materials like that, get in our Spiritual Roots Hoodoo community. The link is in our bio here on YouTube and on TikTok. If you're interested in the astro reading and you're saying, "Hey, I want to get started with my hoodoo journey, but I don't know where to begin, Miss Penny," I always recommend our astro reading called a Hoodoo Spiritual Blueprint. It gives you very good insight about what you need to do right now from where you are to start getting started on your journey. That you a lot of us got our natal chart and we say, "Oh, this is my personality. This is," but where's your work? It's only telling you about your personality and characteristics. But we can look at it more and you'll see your work. You see that the hoodoo, the herbs, the things, depending on your chart where your placements is, what kind of work, what type of rituals you need to be focused on to get you in alignment and on your way to healing. And that's that's exactly what I do with your natal chart. I give it back to you. You see it, you see all your gifts, your talents, your work, and what you come here to work on, and you start doing it. I give you current rituals to start you off from right now where you are, based on where your star is sitting right now and getting you started on that. Okay. So if that's something that you're interested in, I need your time, your date of birth, your place of birth, your email address. I can get you out an invoice and we can get you started on that. If that's something if you're interested in. And those are $15. If that's something that you're interested in. Now, this tripped me out. I've been doing this for a couple of months now. And little did I know that this is kind of the same thing they do in Vedic astrology too in Hinduism. And we talk about that over there. That's an interesting topic as well. But if that's something you're interested in, hit me up. If you're interested in just the regular tarot reading, I do those as well. Okay, so just amethyst, if you're interested, um, just DM me. And if there anyone else, usually when I do these astro readings, people are floored by how accurate they are. but how accurate these their root work, everything that's going on with them, it just lines on up. There are a lot of people think I don't like astrology, it just be lying. Well, if we put the right coordinates in there, your day, your birth, your time, and all that stuff, and looking at you, your star sign, we're looking at specifically you, you'll be surprised what type of helpful information you gain from that. You already have your natal chart. You already see a lot of characteristics in that. Let's break that down and see what type of root work you need to be doing, what type of ancestral work, shadow work that you need to be doing while you're here to refine yourself because you came here with the purpose. You came here to refine yourself as a soul. And so you get that soul information when you get that astro reading. And a lot of us, we love astrology. We love our zodiac sign. We know it means something. We know we should be doing something with it. And you should. Okay? You should. And you learn you learn what to do with it when you get your Hoodoo spiritual blueprint reading. You know exactly what to do with it and what's in there and what you need to be doing. So it's really beneficial. I've seen a lot of people. I don't know how many other people that's on the live stream today that have gotten a reading from me, but I've had a lot of them to send me emails. I probably need to post some reviews here. I have, you know, maybe a dozen or so emails of people saying, "Oh my gosh, this is it. This is what's going on. Thanks for pointing it out and kind of directing me on what I should be doing." And as always, before you do anything on there, confront your ancestors. Ask your ancestors before you do anything. Just because I do the reading or whatever and I see it in the chart, always get the consent of your ancestors before you start the work that is recommended in the chart. They might want you to switch it up a little bit. Do we DM you? I want to astro reading. Yeah, just DM me. I need your time, your place of birth, time, date, and place of birth with your email address. I'll get you out an invoice. And when that's completed, it usually takes me a day or so to break it down and start looking at your chart. Okay, so you can just DM me for that. Okay, so Internet said, I did one for her. So, and she's in my YouTube family. How did that go for you? I did so many since yours, beloved. How are you enjoying that? And was it helpful for you? Was your chart helpful for you? Because I find it gives you a lot of insight, especially when you start looking at your almanac and you start seeing how these different conjunctions and all this stuff start playing out in our life. And you can also, we just talked about that, how these different conjunctions and trees and stuff that you see that coming up in the almanac, how you can line up your magic with some of that. So Internet says she had one, and I haven't got a response from her yet to see how that's working out for her. But again, I put everything in there. It's up to you to do it. I can't make you do what the chart has suggested you do. But I guarantee you, if you start doing whatever is in your chart by the guidance of your ancestors, you will start seeing shifting in your life. Internet said it's very helpful to me. She says very helpful for her. Okay. So you'll get a list of herbs that you probably would be helpful for you to work with. Maybe suggestions for a spiritual bath or candle work or rituals or full moon rituals or new moon rituals. It'll consist a little bit of that. It confirmed a lot of what I knew. Now I just have to work it out. See? And a lot of people, you already know that. You just didn't know how to work it out. But now, Internet, she knows how to work it out. So a lot of you got some stuff in your chart. You don't know how to work it out. You don't know how to fix it. But again, I lined you up with root work and rituals like that that'll help you start fixing some things in your chart and putting you in alignment where you want to be, where you need to be. Okay. And so that's basically what happens. So is anyone have any questions for me? Because we covered a lot here today, and I hope the people that's looking at Obeah understand. Because from my limited perspective, because I'm not an expert, I'm just only going by what the ancestors told me, and that's all. Because I don't know nothing about it. You would really have to be in contact with your ancestors or elder to really understand uh, the depthness of Obeah. And I can only tell you what the ancestors showed me and how I see it show up among the diaspora. That's something I can tell you. Do you prefer tropical or Vedic sidereal astrology? That's an interesting question, Amethyst. Now that we're we have covered Hinduism, and I was trying to figure out how Hinduism got in conjure and looking at Vedic astrology. I'm starting to, and it's based on the moon, and our ancestors followed the moon. And a lot of our ancestors, they went into Vedic astrology. A lot of you getting a lot of astrology that's dumping Western astrology, going to Vedic astrology because it is more soul and spirit based. It is made to deal with your chart and get you in alignment with these cosmic forces that would bring in more good energy and more good experiences in your life. Is made for that. I just don't know. You know, I think the Vedic astrology is more advanced and more suitable for spiritual growth. But I've learned so much with Western astrology, I would have to learn a whole different system again. And so I'm kind of torn between that. And, it's kind of hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But I love Vedic astrology for the simple fact they enter the moon. And once you enter the moon into that, again, the moon is dealing with the mind. Okay, so they're really dealing with your psychology. They're really dealing with your traumas when they enter that into that. Love all the rituals in there, and you know exactly what to do and the energies to work with. When you start looking at the dahas, looking at how the planets and conjunctions are, they're letting you know with each daha. They just broken it down so beautifully. They really have. And when you look at that, it reminds you of the Ifa. It really does. It's like they have their own Odu built into their own into Vedic astrology. They have their own divination system built inside their astrology system versus Western astrology. I'm sorry, y'all. You know I got to be nerdy about this. You ask me a simple question, and here the hell I go on and on and on about my perspective. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But I'm looking at Western astrology is based on the sun sign. And yes, they're 80 to 90% right on the characteristics, but yet there is no spiritual instruction to again to refine some of these sun signs. And it does not address their mental or psychological state. It's only addressing the personalities and characteristics. Okay. So I'm kind of torn. I don't know. But I definitely want to be looking more at Vedic astrology. Just start taking a look at it. Maybe that'll get me comfortable with it. It is less complicated. Like we broke down over there, and I know people say, "Well, that's a whole new astrology." I always find cheat sheets to really understand astrology. The almanac is a really great way to do it. And even if you was to get over there in Vedic astrology, they have it broken down to a science. Like they have like daily almanacs letting you know what spirits to work with at a certain time and what planet is on and what type of it's just like so awesome when you look at their almanac. But I did a whole, I had to do a whole lecture on it. I had to break it down and show people, show our community, if that's something that they chose, how to work with it and how to do it an easy way. And they have their own almanac that is public that you can use. So it's a really easy thing to follow. And it probably would be easy for me because I probably wouldn't have to learn as much because they have broken it all the way down for us. They really have. Versus Western astrology, I do have to do more work looking at the conjunctions because there is no divinatory system integrated into Western astrology like it is in Vedic astrology. I hope I'm making sense, you guys. Okay, I hope I'm making sense to you guys. I try to keep it simple as possible, but if you that's something that you're interested in too, and understanding what I'm saying about Vedic astrology and Western astrology, um, get over there and look at their lecture. I like it because again they got the moon in there, and then you have to look at this the simple fact too. in order for Western astrologers to understand the moving of their sun signs and everything, they had to study. Again, they had to get this information from the Hindus and the Arabics. The Arabics know a lot about the moon too. Like they got a lot of their. If you want to know something about the moon, it's gonna be the Arabic or from India. They're gonna have a lot of that knowledge. Even the spirits of the moon. They know a lot about the spirits of the moon, especially if you're trying to perfect your magic in such a way and you're trying to work with those energies. You're going to want to know. We just covered that too. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm so nerdy. I'm so sorry. Um, if you want to know about that, because that's powerful magic too. Again, when you know how to work with the energies of these moons and looking at those constellations that are connected with the moon. Okay. Very interesting too. And they had all that knowledge. And I believe they had that knowledge. Yeah, I'm just gonna go on and on. God, I just don't like me sometimes. What I like about that too, when you start looking at the Arabic culture, you see a lot of divine feminine energy with those moon spirits. Okay, you see a lot of a divine feminine with those moon spirits. And so you really start understanding too why our ancient mothers was following that. It just made sense to me. Uh because if you were the first being here, you would be following the moon sign. And really without the cycles of the moon, they wouldn't really be able to count the days. That's where it's coming from, the divine feminine. But I'm very intrigued by the Arabic knowledge that they have on the moon and the Asians too, because again, you see heavy divine feminine energy um, over there. Like in Hinduism, you're constantly gonna be running into these goddesses. You're constantly gonna be running into these elemental spirits, just like you do in voodoo, just like you do in Ifa. The people there now don't respect the divine feminine anymore. They can't. Yeah, yes, some of that stuff they go on now. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But again, I love looking at this work. I'm very fascinated by it. I'm just nerdy like that. I don't have a problem talking about these subjects, um, especially when it comes to hoodoo and ancestral veneration. And we're getting ready to go into that a little bit more too. So we'll be covering a lot of that. If this is your topic and you want to know, the ins and out of hoodoo and really understand the science of magic, I think we have a very great community over there. We've lined up so many great materials and lectures to help you understand hoodoo and have a great foundation on it. And that's my mission over there. And I do as much as I can to help you understand. If you need to understand, or if you need to reach out to me, DM me. Uh, I do everything I can to try to help you understand the practice. And so far, it's been going pretty good. It says, Antoinette said, it focusing on the ego. This is why most people don't go deeper into it. It will uncover what most might be ready to learn about themselves. I agree with you, Antoinette. I agree with you about Western astrology because it does again. We're going by the sun, and then too, don't get. I'm about to get in my soapbox again because I'm a root worker when it comes to this type of stuff, this type of knowledge. So a lot of the books you get over there, you'll see some books over there that's 100 years old because I done went back to the root of it and showed you where it's sitting, and I broke it down, and now we having a full discussion over there in the lecture over there. But again, you got these patriarchs coming in, uh changing the astrological system because it was a divine feminine in there, and they took Ophiuchus out. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Now, when you're looking at Ophiuchus, I broke this down on one of my YouTube channels. I can't remember what it was, but that you're seeing Alpha, because they'll show you this image of a man holding a snake, but really that's supposed to be an image of like the Mama Wati figure with the snake wrapped around her. And I think, and because I look at the occult sciences and I have dived into that looking at the planets, look at other practitioner, whatever you may be, a Wiccan, whatever magical practice that you are practicing, or occultist. And I'm sure you notice the same thing. And so something being tampered with because you're looking at all these planets, yet Earth is never mentioned as a planet. It is known as a element, but we call it a planet. Is that making sense to you? Out of all the occult books you read through, Earth is never mentioned. So is it just magical? Is it an ether? What is Earth then? And then there's a 13th sign. So if the 13th sign was there, what would be the planet representing Ophiuchus? Would it be Earth? Would it be Mother Earth? And then too, is Earth really a element? Was that science change? I have so many questions. See how I go with this? See how I start going down the damn rabbit hole? You see what I'm saying? But you're calling it a planet, but in magic, it's not a planet. It's an element. And we know you took Ophiuchus out of it. So if Ophiuchus was in there, what planet would represent Ophiuchus, the 13th sign? Would it be the moon? What would it be? I don't know. You start working med, you start looking at this thing and looking at the science of thing, and there's something how you got all these planets that we sit here, and all these planets got spirits, they got angels, intelligences connected with them. You tell us that Earth is a planet, but yet when we go in magic, it's no longer a planet; it's an element now. Then you tell us there was 13 zodiac sign, one was Ophiuchus, but they took it out. Okay, so if they took it out, okay, I appreciate you taking it out. You telling me you took it out. Then what planet, what energies, and what spirits was associated with Ophiuchus? See, my mind be thinking, is this how the ancestors be working with me? And then too, the way my mind just work differently from some people too. It's kind of weird. Sometimes I'm very odd. You know, that's a lot of reason why I stay to myself. Stay to myself because I'm a very odd individual. My mind just it works differently. But I've never heard anyone say this the way I've said it. I just want to know if you noticed that. Am I missing something there? Because again, we're seeing it as a planet. We're naming it as a planet like it would be Mercury, Saturn, anything else. And then you have the planet Earth. But yet, when you get over here, what is it telling us? We get over here in magic and we find out that Earth ain't even a planet. It is an element. Is it an ether? Is it already magical? Because you're naming it as an element now. It's no longer a planet. So that's something for you to think about. And I've seen that reoccur among a lot of books. But and then I go to and I said, I wonder, because I tried to get my hand on the oldest occult books, and it was called the Picatrix. But then they had to rewrite the Picatrix. Here I go with my nerdy crap again, you guys. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm finna end this live because I'm doing too much. Um, when you look at the Picatrix, they saying that's the oldest occult book. They damn near lost the occult books. But even before then, I want to know because these occultists that rewrite this book, they letting you know that they stole this stuff from the pagans, aka matriarch, matrilineal culture. But I want to know too, how did they set up the science from the woman perspective? They ain't never thought of it by like that. Water, fire, air, earth makes sense. How they did. It seems the earth represents the feminine, the womb that has been suppressed. This is why she's not really included into the others. I believe patriarch order has something to do with it. It's just something that we should like question. And I haven't heard it questioned again among the occult community or the magic community. And I felt odd because I'm like, am I the only one noticing this? You know, am I supposed to really look at Earth because you're telling me it's a planet, but yet when magic um, is seen as a element and not a planet? Now, what do I do with that? Then I know that there were 13 zodiac signs. You know, I don't know. Is we getting the magic just right? Is it other magic that I'm missing that I'm supposed to have access to that you're hiding from me? Basically, that's what the hell I'm saying. That sound crazy. Do that sound crazy? That's how I feel. I feel like you had something else from me, put it like that. And now I want to look at, uh, these men telling us that we stole it. Now I want to look at the most ancient occult book written by women. I don't want to see any more written by men. I just really don't. And most of these occult books, I don't think I've read. I read about H.P. Blavatsky, Helen Blavatsky, but you got her being among these other men. So a lot of her writings look a lot like them. I've never seen a divine feminine, a feminine order, because this is where this started from. A feminine order write extensively on the occult from this type of perspective that I'm talking about in that way with including the lost knowledge in there because I think it's I think the Wiccans tried to do it, but even then I don't think they still have all the information. I don't know, maybe I ain't bumped into that yet. Maybe I'm speaking uh I'm jumping the gun with what I'm talking about, but I haven't seen it yet. But I just wondered if any other people in the magic community noticed that. Why is that like that? Why is that like that? Why is Earth in magic is again an element and not a planet, but we're calling it a planet because Mama Zoba the Sibyl's book was pretty good. Yep, the Great Cosmic Mother knocked your socks off too. It'll probably give you it's definitely gonna put the book by Mama Zogby, The Symbols, in greater perspective when you read the Great Cosmic Mother. That book just knocked it out the oh my gosh. That Mama Zogby, uh that those books right there. It's another book. And of course wrote a book, Matriarch to Patriarch, when God was a woman. Those books right there, they really put things in perspective to you like that. And then you think it's a lie, men say that's a lie. It what puts it in better perspective when you read The Secret Teachers of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. They have that book on audio book too. You can listen on YouTube. But he sits there and tell you that these men are taking this stuff from women. And you can tell he was like shocked by it. I'm glad he was forthcoming when he wrote the book, but you could tell he was shocked by what was going on there. Okay, he was shocked about what was going on there. And well, here go. Your precious Emma said we need you to write a code book. I wouldn't even know what to start. That book would probably be, I don't know where that book would go if I started to write a book like that. I'm not sure if I can stay focused and write a book like that. Because all the opinions and things I wonder about when it comes to that. So my mind is still filled with wonder when it comes to magic and looking at the elements versus the planets. And I just want that have they noticed that and wondered about that. I think ancestors will really go in on information when writing a book. I think that's most important too is the ancestor knowledge, especially when it comes to hoodoo. And you'll see that in a lot of our materials that we go in there. So many people and writers over there that talk about the importance of ancestral veneration. I have that book, The Great Cosmic Mother. I hadn't fully read it yet. I have the Symbols and Mama's Water. I'm telling you, they put each other in perspective. I mean, really let you understand. And I think for the Great Cosmic Mother, for me, I think it triggered me reading the Great Cosmic Mother, that's an eye opener too, because you have these men intentionally doing psychological examination and research on women on how to dumb women down so they can take control of their portals. That I looked at Carl Jung and Freud in a whole different light after seeing that. After seeing that, I just was just like, what the? So these and then they go into so many details of how they purposely disconnected women from this cosmic energy. They deliberately did that. I'm just too triggered with that. These, if you knew what these patriarchy has done, you think it's about race. Yeah, a little bit about race, but it's more about the domination of women than anything. And it's just hiding behind racism. Let women get together and you'll understand that if all women came together, you'll see that real clear. But you can't see it real clear right now because it's hiding behind racism. I know that sounds strange. I know this statement sounds strange to a lot of you, but I'm only telling you what the ancestors told me when I went down that rabbit hole. And this is a strong blind force that all of us been under is patriarchy. You can't it's a jail you can't even see, but you know it's there. And women, you think it's not about you, but it's absolutely about you. All of this is about you. All of this. I know it don't look that way because he's making you feel it ain't about you. You women ain't important. I tell you this, start closing down portals. What you seeing a lot of that now. Start closing your legs, closing down portals, and you'll see how it is about you because they're already trying to make it a law where you got to have these cheering and you can't get rid of them and all that stuff. They're gonna make you have their babies. Okay, and trying to make take away your name and all your last name. You bind it with your husband and all that. It's all about you. Why you think if it wasn't about you, why you trying to take so much from her? Why y'all trying to take so much from us? You say you want us to have children, but then you getting rid of all these things that will help us take care of our children. You're creating a volatile world, but you want us to bring children into. You've heard us say you need to change, but you don't want to change. Y'all tend to get crazier and crazier as we move through time. You men get more. Some of you get so entitled and crazy. You think it's all about you. When you stand up talking, you only talking about yourself. You don't consider the women and children. You just start opening your mouth, talking about you, what you want. You ain't think about no women and children. You can't be. Okay? You can't be. And women got together and said, hey, no more. We finna take back our world. We finna control this. Nah, we're not fooling with you no more. You'll get a big reaction out of that. Okay? Same thing that was going on in that Bible. Nothing is different. When they was saying they was taking concubines and wife and all that, what you think that was about? You think them women was going with them willingly? Do you actually believe that? Do you believe all the women in the Bible that were married were grown women? Let me say that too. Some of them was children. You see this practice go on into the 30s, the 40s, and 50s, and now some of them still doing this stuff. Women and children are not safe in patriarchy. They're letting you know what it is. That's why I say when you go look at that Bible, they're talking about man, 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 man. And my most favorite part in there is when it said all men are liars. They let you know it didn't say all women. It didn't say all children. That Bible's very specific. This is about his spiritual evolution. We've already developed ours. They're trying to get in fact, they're trying to reach the divine feminine spirit to evolve spiritually. They trying to get something that women already have. That's what this is about. Okay. I'm about to have some dinner this. Okay. All right, you guys. But if you need me, reach out to me. I'm going to get off my soapbox, but you know what to do. And I hope you found this video, this live stream very beneficial, especially on my YouTube channel. I did my best to break down Obeah. Again, you'll have to follow your ancestors if you want anything else. Okay, I don't know a book out there on it, and you would have to dive deep into the occult and be serious about the work because of the um all that sacred knowledge that's in Obeah. Okay. All right. Love you guys. You guys take care. Yeah, that might have a different meaning over there, internet. I hear you saying that I've learned that by reading a Masonic Bible that the word fair mentioned in the Bible based on the meaning beautiful and young. It might mean that. They come up with these code words you won't know until you look it up. But yeah, this young lady was telling me she was reading a book about these men that were having these babies, getting these women pregnant, and they didn't want to be with the older women anymore. I forgot the name of this book she was reading, but she was talking about these. I think they was these Greek or Roman men. They didn't want to have be with their wives anymore. They started chasing after these young women because they didn't like the way they these women bodies looked after they had babies. So that was a thing too. So you start looking at the culture and the society of men, you start looking at some very nasty, ugly socialization and behaviors that you still see right now today. They said that's a very interesting subject in itself when you start looking at the socialization of men, especially us women. I can remember being in the when I was in the women's shelter. I don't know what about this conversation, but us women, and we was all in there. You see some Hispanic women's in there. It was black women in there. It was a variety of women in that shelter, and we were all sitting down and we was talking about our experience. And then they were talking about the social society there in Oklahoma. And one of the things that they were talking about is has the men will get drunk and go to town and they would get drunk, and how all the wives they would be like in this really anxious and nervous. And usually when these men came back home, they were uh you know abusing these women physically, and sexually. These women were afraid because when these men start drinking, that's when a lot of these behaviors and stuff, the abuse started with these women. And then a lot of them that were from Oklahoma, they remembered that. They remembered that with their parents. They remembered that. And I heard similar stories with my grandmother and some of my aunts and their husbands. This was a culture of this type of behavior. And a lot of these women, you think they would want to have 18, 20 kids. Some of them were not. Some of these men were coming home, forcing themselves on these women. Some of them want not. It's a lot of children that should have been born that ain't born. Okay, there's a lot of children. I just talked about that. I think on one of my channels, that man set up and said that they don't care about folks. They was just trying to populate this world and make workers. That's it. That's what they're trying to do. Make workers. They don't look at your child with no soul or nothing like that. That man set up in that governor's office and said, we got to outlaw abortions. We done had so many abortions. We them 200,000 people we could have put to work. That's what that man said. Okay, so you looking at this from a spiritual perspective, and you know this world not safe, and they're gonna keep on making it safe. Why would you keep bringing souls into this reality through your portal for them to have somebody to exploit? You already know what they're doing to the women and children. Why keep bringing souls through your portal like that? So when they mention fair, I see that word differently now when it comes to describing female. Yep, because they probably talking about children. Okay. I love listening to that story. What's her name? Gloria Velez. She was 14 years old. And these grown men got her in this video trying to have sex with her. Look at Aaliyah. She was a young girl, but these grown ass men want to have their hands on that girl. They letting you know what it is. And they say, well, not all of us like that. Okay, whatever. If they lower the age to you can marry somebody at 14 years old, a lot of y'all, some of y'all be going out there getting 14-year-olds married. Hell, a 12-year-old for that matter. Is all of them like that? Absolutely not. But a lot of them been programmed with this poison to think that way. Okay? All of them like ain't like that, but it's a lot of them like that. A lot of them been programmed that way. They some very scary people. Some of these men scary. They don't realize they scary. Now, that's my opinion on it. But I'm not gonna get on my soapbox again. I've shared my thoughts here about you. I will be coming here again, and hopefully we'll be able to get into some more juicy stuff because we got some other stuff that we're covering over there when we're talking about conjure. And I think the next topic that we're going to talk about, which I thought that was very interesting, is finding the time to do your work. I think that's it's important, knowing the time to do your work and how to use time to do your work. So we're probably going to be bringing that up in another subject. Now we talked about planetary, planning it to planetary times, to days, to hours, things of this such. But then we're going to look at how our ancestors was timing their work too. So that's going to be a very interesting topic. I can't wait to get into that. Okay, you guys, love you.